Hi computer scientists, Mr. Stafford here, and today I wanted to show you Unit 6, Lesson 5, Storing Objects in an Array List. It asks us to modify this program using an array list instead of a one-dimensional array. So we're looking at a couple of files: plain poem file, free verse poem file, haiku poem file, plain poem, and then we have free verse poem, and haiku poem. Then we come across this one-dimensional array of poems, and its poetry collection equals new poem. So instead of erasing that, or instead of deleting that line of code, I'm just going to comment it out, and I'm going to make an array list, fill it with poem type objects, and I'm going to call it poetry collection, just like the 1D array was, equals a new array list filled with poems. And then I see that we have 3 lines that are adding these poems at specific indexes in the one-dimensional array. So what I want to do is poetry collection dot add, and then I'm going to add plain poem, and I'm going to copy and paste that and just add the other poems like free verse and haiku into those into the poetry collection array list. Okay, and then it says for int index equals 0, index is less than poetry collection dot length. Since it's an array list now, I need to do size. And then poetry collection index, I need to do dot get, and then I, which is the index, dot follows rule. So I want to run this, see if there's any errors, and correct them if I do. Oh, and I used I instead of index, so I'm going to change that to index. Clear the console and rerun it. I get another error, and it says cannot find symbol array list. Okay, so I know that I've declared array list just fine, but I haven't imported it yet. So a quick little import that I like to do is import java.util.star. Now that's going to get a little bit more than the array lists, but for what we're going to do, it's going to work. Okay, so the plain poem should not have more than 50 characters. The plain poem follows the rules. All right, very good. So this now works after I got my import. I'm going to click Finish. Okay, choose from the following activities. We'll take a look at longest line first, and it says, in poem.java, each line of a file object is read into an array list called poem text. So let's look at poem. And we have a couple of instance variables in the poem class: title, author, poem file, which is a file, and poem text. And the constructor has our title, author, poem file, and poem text. And what it's wanting me to do is write the max line length. So method defined and return the line in the poem text with the most number of characters. Okay, so it's given me an array list called poem text. So poem text is an array list. And what I want to do is go through each individual line. So each line of the file object is read into that array list. So what I need to do is find the largest size of line in that array. So here's the Harlem poem. So here's the Harlem poem, and I need to figure out which one of these is the longest. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say string, because I got to return a string, and I'm going to say max is going to be equal to poem text dot get 0. So I'm just going to say the first line in this poem is the largest right now, and then I'm going to loop through the array list and determine if that's true or not. So for int I equals 0, I is going to be less than poem text dot size I plus plus, and I'm going to say if, I need to determine the size of that max line. So I'm going to do int max size is going to be equal to max dot length, and I'm using length because it's a string. Okay. So now what I want to do is if max size is less than or equal to poem text dot get I dot length. So what I'm saying here is, if what I'm saying the maximum size is the less than, you know what? I don't like size. I want to call it length, the max length, because length is associated with a string in my brain. So if max length is less than or equal to poem text.getI.length, so if it's actually smaller than that length, I need to reset max length equal to this poem text.getI.length. And I need to set my max line. So instead of calling it max, I'm going to call it max line. Max line is going to equal to poem text.getI. And I'm going to go Control C, Control V. And then I'm going to return max line. All right, let's run this, see if I have any errors. And I do. So this is can't find symbol poem text on line 44. And so I want to see what my array list is called. And I thought it was poem text. So let me go back to line 44. And I've misspelt poem. So let's fix that, and we'll run it. See what other errors we have. And int max length equals, when I change the name of it, it should be max line dot length. All right, let's rerun that. And I am given, does it stink like rotten meat? Let's go to Harlem Poem, and it looks like does it stink like rotten meat is the longest line. Okay, couple errors there. We'll click finish. And then we'll do characters in the poem. All right, then it says in poem.java, each line of a file object is read into an array list called poem text. That sounds familiar. And then we need to write the average characters method to calculate and return the average number of characters in each line in the poem. Okay, so here's my average characters. So what I want to do when I find an average is add up all the characters and then divide that by the number of lines in each, by the number of lines that I've counted up. So this is returning an int. So we're just going to the average characters. So write the average characters method to calculate and return the average number of characters in each line in poem text. So I think it's going to be okay if we do integer division here. So I'm going to say int num lines equals 0, and then int chars in lines equals 0. And if I'm reading this like I think I should be, the number of lines are just going to be how many elements are in this array list poem text. So I can even do poem text dot size right now, and then I'm going to loop through poem text. So for int I equals 0, I is going to be less than poem text dot size I plus plus. And then what I want to do is I want to do chars in lines plus equal poem text dot get I dot length. And that's going to be the length of the lines all added up in the array list. And then what I want to return is chars in lines, divide that by the num lines that I have. Okay, let's run this and see if we get something reasonable. So the average characters of each line is 36. So let's look at the stars poem. And I'm looking at this. This would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So the first line has 32 characters in it. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the rest of them, or at least the first line that I counted. And that seems to me like a reasonable number. So I'm going to say that that's good. Okay, I'm going to hit finish. And then I'm going to go lines of specific length. And it says in poem Java, each line of a file object is read into an array list called poem text. That also sounds familiar. And it says write the find line of length method to find and return the number of lines in poem text that are greater than or equal to the parameter min length. Okay, so find line of length. So here's what I need to do. I want to make an int num lines equals 0, and num lines is going to be equal to the number of lines that are greater than or equal to this minimum length. So again, I want to loop through. We go for int I is 0, I is less than poem text dot size I plus plus, and then I want to see if poem text dot get I dot length is greater than or equal to min length. Okay, so I'm getting a line from poem text and I'm determining its length, and I'm seeing if it is greater than or equal to the minimum length, and if it is, my num lines should be incremented. So I'm going to do num lines plus plus, and then I want to return num lines. Let's run, see if we have any errors. And it says the total number of lines at least 20 characters long are 11. So it's saying that we have 11 of these, and I want to just count how many lines we actually have. We've got, well, 14 lines, including the breaks. We've got 2 breaks, so there's 12. So we're looking at 20 characters long. Let's find one that's pretty short. Looks like this is line 12 is really short, and it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, that looks pretty reasonable that I would have 11 of those. And this looks like the longest one, so I want to test this out. It says the birds rose smiling in their nests, so let's count. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Okay, I'm going to see what it says when we put in 38. I went over to my console.java, and instead of 20 characters long, it was 38. And it says that I've got one line, which makes sense to me. So I'm going to say that that's right. And I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. And the rest of the levels are check your understandings. And that's it for Unit 6, Lesson 5, storing objects in an array list.